5 ways to embrace your feminine spirituality and your intuition. Hi, my name is Leah Chantel, and today I'm talking about how to embrace your feminine spirituality and intuition. And the way to embrace it will look quite different from typical outward-oriented advice on success and self-improvement, because this is a very feminine strategy, and most of our success models in our society are quite outward oriented. They're quite patriarchal, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just for such a long time we've suppressed the wisdom of the feminine, and it's so powerful that we need to start using it and embracing it, especially if we are the type of person who is very sensitive and empathic and intuitive. If we feel the presence of spirit in our lives and we feel deeply empathetic towards other people, then we need to start following these feminine principles for ourselves, because I believe we'll actually achieve more success than we do following the outward masculine-oriented strategies of success. So here is my first tip for you. Someone following their feminine spirituality and their intuition is going to receive their opportunities rather than use their intellect to push forward and look for opportunities. So often we're so busy focusing on outward orientation and really pushing for success. It's like, I've got to push to manifest what I want. Like, I've got to push myself to find that perfect partner, for example, by going out to bars, or I've got to push myself to go on the dating apps. And to some extent, that can be true. Like, you do need to put yourself out there a little bit in order to at least get in front of men, so you have an opportunity to have a conversation. But truthfully, I think a more feminine approach really works well when we're manifesting something new in our lives. Rather than try to push ourselves outwards to look for somebody, I think once you've taken that step to put yourself in front of somebody, you've done enough. And now it's time to turn towards a feminine strategy and receive what is meant to be yours. So at that point, we need to actually turn inward and not push so hard. We actually need to relax into our own sense of inner peace and see what opportunities come forward. And it's the same with business. To a certain extent, yes, it's good to network and get to know people and be open to new connections. But don't be that person who tries to force the connection. Don't be that person who's handing out business cards left, right, and center to anybody and anybody, Focus on developing high quality relationships with people and let them come to you and be interested in your energy. When you're following your intuition and your feminine spirituality, you will go for the genuine, authentic connection that you receive, rather than push outwards and try to force on the external world. And I know in a business, especially if you study real estate or other business opportunities, they'll say network, network, network. Put your business cards out there, try to connect with as many people as possible. And I'm not saying this is bad advice, but when you're pursuing an intuitive path, a more spiritually feminine path, I don't think this is the best strategy to force yourself on other people. I think that's a very common early business mistake that intuitives and mediums do in their businesses. And when they're trying to manifest something new in their life, like a new relationship. But pushing to a certain extent at some point becomes unproductive, and we have to really focus on the quality of our relationships and the quality of the content that we're putting out there rather than the quantity of the content that we're putting out there. So we need to allow ourselves to receive those high quality connections rather than push ourselves out there. So that's my tip number 1. Tip number 2 is that we need to be grateful for whatever comes back to us and not complain or feel jealous of other people who appear to have more. So if we put out a negative energy like, oh, my business is not doing as well as so-and-so's business, and you complain about whatever you receive in your business, then you're going to receive less. You're going to turn off the flow. And so it's very important to have gratitude for whatever opportunities and whatever people come your way in terms of clients. If you have gratitude and positive energy towards anything that you do receive, that will open the channels for you to receive more. And that will allow you to build more abundance in the long term. And gratitude is good advice, really, even in the male patriarchal model. It's always good to have gratitude for whatever you have. And so it's just good advice all around. But I think it's especially important for women and for people practicing feminine spirituality who are receiving their high quality connections to be very grateful for those and not take for granted anything that comes your way in life. And then you'll be open to receiving even more beautiful, abundant opportunities. My third piece of advice is that we need to be open to receiving help from the universe or from anybody who comes our way. The male patriarchal model is that we have to do everything by ourselves. And sometimes we do need to be independent. We do need to be committed to a certain extent to show up and do that independently. But having said that, if we try to be too independent and we cut ourselves off from any help that comes our way, then we're reducing the amount of opportunities that could be coming towards us, and we have to let go of that desire to be a warrior and do everything on our own as a lone ranger, and instead embrace the fact that we can receive help from others and that there are people who want to support us out there and that we can support them too, and that it's a collaborative effort and not a competitive effort. And then my fourth piece of advice is that you shouldn't be pushing yourself to perform. As intuitives, we're not celebrities, we're not singers and dancers, and we're not trying to push ourselves onto other people by attracting a lot of attention to ourselves in obvious ways. Although if you're a very creative person and you genuinely have a talent for singing and dancing and it comes out of you naturally and you don't really mind doing some of that in your work, I guess you can do that. If it's very natural to you and it comes easily and you enjoy it, go for it, right? I'm all about creativity and expressing yourself. So if it's a genuine form of self-expression, then go for it. But if you're just trying to push yourself onto other people because you think it's good marketing and you think that's going to increase your followers if you sing and dance in front of them, you're more likely to turn people off your content. It's actually better to be more simple and show up as your genuine, authentic self, because that's the self that people are going to resonate with, and that's the self that people are going to be loyal to in the long term. So don't show up fake, because if you put on an act, you're going to have to put it on for a very long time, and you'll probably burn out trying to create social media for others to follow. And then my last piece of advice is that you don't want to be too nice or a people pleaser as an intuitive online, because when you're people pleasing, you're basically burning out. You're not being true to yourself. You're obliterating your boundaries. Think about it when you're dating, when gentlemen want to see you at the last minute or come over late at night. That's the kind of thing where you have to put some boundaries on it and say, hey, that's not right for me. And there are things like that in business that happen all the time. And so you need to be able to put boundaries on things and not work with people who don't resonate with you. For example, if the wrong person with the wrong set of values approaches you and wants to have a partnership, even if they have a really big following, if you don't agree with the kind of content that they're putting out there, then you really shouldn't be working with them. You need to have good boundaries and good standards to make sure you're only resonating with people who have the same intuitive standards that you do for life, and the same empathy and the same caring. And if somebody approaches you who doesn't have that caring and doesn't embody that love, then you shouldn't really be working with them. You shouldn't be a people pleaser. And you don't want to be so nice that you're letting people into your very sacred following who don't have the best of intentions. I hope you enjoyed my advice today on how to practice feminine spirituality in your feminine spiritual business, whether it's for intuition or mediumship, or you're just a very empathetic counselor. I think all of these tips are very helpful and very different from the patriarchal models of business, and yet they still work for us as intuitives and spiritual feminine professionals. I hope you're all having an amazing week and take care. Bye now.